Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to be diving headfirst into the world of the Poincaré Conjecture.
Really fascinating stuff.
Now, I know what you might be thinking.
Yeah.
Math.
Yeah.
On a podcast.
Right.
But trust me, this isn't your high school geometry class.
Not at all.
We're talking about shapes of the universe and some serious mind-bending concepts.
Oh, yeah.
That'll leave you questioning the very fabric of reality.
That's right. The Poincaré Conjecture, now a proven theorem, might sound a little intimidating at first.
Sure.
But it's really a gateway into understanding the very shape of our universe.
Okay.
And potentially the shapes of other universes we can't even begin to imagine.
So we've got a stack of sources here.
We do.
Research papers, historical accounts, even some mind-boggling lectures about the geniuses who tackled this puzzle over the years.
Absolutely.
Talking decades of work.
Yeah.
By some of the brightest minds on the planet.
Absolutely.
All trying to crack this seemingly simple idea.
It's true, and that's the beauty of it. The conjecture itself is deceptively straightforward. Okay. It essentially states that any shape that's closed, meaning it has no boundaries, and simply connected, meaning you can shrink any loop on it down to a point without leaving the surface, is topologically equivalent to a three-sphere.
Okay, hold on. Topologically equivalent. What does that even mean?
You're right. We should probably unpack that a bit.
Yeah.
Imagine you have a balloon.
Okay.
You can twist it, stretch it, even turn it inside out, but it's still fundamentally a sphere, right?
Right.
That's the essence of topological equivalence.
Wow.
Two shapes can look vastly different.
Right.
But if you can morph one into the other without tearing or gluing,
Yeah.
they're considered topologically the same.
So the Poincaré Conjecture is saying that any shape, no matter how weird or twisted, can be transformed into a sphere, as long as it meets those two conditions, closed and simply connected.
Exactly. It's like saying there's only one fundamental shape in 3 dimensions at least when you're talking about shapes that have no holes or boundaries.
Now, that's a pretty bold claim. We're not just talking about some abstract mathematical puzzle here. We're talking about potentially understanding the fundamental structure of the cosmos. But this idea, this conjecture, it doesn't tell us how to transform those shapes, does it? It just says it's possible.
You hit the nail on the head. The Poincaré Conjecture doesn't give us a step-by-step guide.
Right.
It's more like a cosmic blueprint that hints at a deeper truth.
I see.
And to actually prove it, mathematicians had to develop some incredibly powerful tools, one of which is called Ricci flow.
Okay, I've heard of Ricci flow, but it sounds pretty intimidating. Can we break it down?
Absolutely. Imagine you have a crumpled piece of paper that represents our weird, potentially multi-dimensional shape.
Right.
Ricci flow is like gently ironing out those wrinkles and creases until you have a perfectly flat sheet.
Okay.
It's a mathematical process that smooths out the geometry of a shape.
So they're using this mathematical ironing process to transform these shapes into spheres. How does that even work?
Well, it's not as simple as just ironing things flat. Ricci flow is actually a way of evolving the curvature of a shape over time.
Okay.
It's like applying heat to a metal object. The heat spreads out and smooths out the irregularities.
Okay, so it's like a heat smoothing process for shapes.
It is.
That's a pretty cool way to think about it.
And the fascinating thing is that when you apply Ricci flow to a shape that meets the conditions of the Poincaré Conjecture, it eventually morphs into a three-sphere.
Oh, wow.
Essentially proving they're topologically the same.
So they're saying that if you smooth out any shape enough, it inevitably becomes a sphere. That seems almost too simple. I mean, were there any snags along the way?
Oh, there were definitely snags.
Okay.
Imagine our crumpled paper analogy. What happens if the paper rips as you're trying to iron it?
Right.
That's kind of what can happen with Ricci flow. You get these points called singularities where the curvature becomes infinitely large and things get really messy.
Ah, so it's not always a smooth ride. What did they do about these rips in the mathematical fabric?
That's where things get really interesting because tackling these singularities required some serious mathematical ingenuity. The solution involves something called surgery, and this is where Grigori Perelman, a Russian mathematician, enters the picture. He essentially figured out a way to carefully cut out these singularities and patch them up, allowing the smoothing process to continue.
Wait, so he's performing surgery on mathematical shapes. It sounds like we're stepping into the realm of science fiction here.
It might sound strange, but it's actually a brilliant mathematical technique. Perelman's work was revolutionary. He not only figured out how to deal with these singularities,
Yeah.
but he also proved a crucial concept called non-collapsing,
Okay.
which ensures that the shape doesn't become infinitely thin during the smoothing process.
So he found a way to prevent the shapes from imploding while they were being smoothed out.
That's right.
That's pretty impressive.
It is. And this combination of surgery and non-collapsing allowed Perelman to finally complete the proof of the Poincaré conjecture,
Wow.
turning it from a conjecture into a bona fide theorem.
So we're talking about a major mathematical victory here, one that took decades to achieve. But what does this all mean? What's the takeaway for someone who's not, trying to win a Fields medal?
That's a great question, and it gets to the heart of why this is so fascinating. The Poincaré conjecture and its proof have had a profound impact not only on mathematics, but also on our understanding of the universe. It gives us a new way of thinking about shape dimension and the fundamental building blocks of reality.
So this isn't just some abstract mathematical puzzle. It's a key to unlocking deeper truths about the cosmos.
Exactly. And what's even more fascinating is that the techniques developed to prove the Poincaré conjecture, like Ricci flow, have found applications in fields like computer graphics, medical imaging, and even cosmology.
Okay, now that's what I call a deep dive.
Right.
We started with a simple question about shapes, and now we're talking about the shape of the universe and the tools that are shaping our technological world. Amazing.
It's a testament to the interconnectedness of knowledge and the power of human curiosity. And we're just getting started.
All right, I'm hooked. Let's dive deeper into this world of canonical neighborhoods and see how they played a role in all of this.
Excellent. These canonical neighborhoods are like looking under the microscope at those singularities,
Okay.
giving us a way to understand their geometry and control their behavior during the smoothing process.
Lead the way. I'm ready to explore these mathematical microcosms.
Let's do it. So you're ready to explore these canonical neighborhoods. Think of them as a kind of zoom lens for mathematicians. When those singularities pop up during Ricci flow, remember, those are like the rips in our crumpled paper canonical neighborhoods. Let us get a close-up view of what's happening.
Okay, I'm picturing myself putting on some super-powered mathematical glasses to get a better look at these singularities.
Right.
What am I seeing? Are we talking about some kind of crazy multi-dimensional geometry here?
It can get a bit wild, but thankfully mathematicians have identified a few key shapes that pop up repeatedly. One of the most important is called an epsilon neck, and it looks exactly like what the name suggests, a long, thin neck. Imagine stretching a piece of chewing gum. That's kind of what an epsilon neck looks like in this context.
All right, so we've got these stretchy gum-like necks. What else are we seeing through our mathematical microscope?
Another common shape is called an epsilon cap, which is basically a rounded cap-like shape attached to an epsilon neck. Picture a mushroom cap on a slender stem. These epsilon caps and epsilon necks, along with a few other special cases, form the building blocks of canonical neighborhoods.
So it's like mathematicians have this toolkit of standard shapes, and whenever they encounter a singularity, they can use these shapes to understand what's going on.
That's a great way to think about it. It's like having a field guide to the singularities that can pop up during Ricci flow, and once you've identified the shape, you can start to predict how it's going to behave.
Okay, that makes sense. But how does knowing the shape of a singularity help us actually prove the Poincaré conjecture?
That's where the real brilliance of Perelman's work comes in. He was able to show that these canonical neighborhoods behave in very specific ways under Ricci flow. In some cases, the singularity might smooth itself out naturally as the flow continues. In other cases, it might require a little bit of surgery. That's where mathematicians carefully cut out the singularity and patch it up with a smooth piece.
So it's like having a roadmap for dealing with those rips in the mathematical fabric.
Yeah.
You identify the type of rip, and then you know exactly how to patch it up.
Exactly. And what Perelman proved was that no matter what kind of singularity pops up, there's always a way to deal with it and keep the smoothing process going. That was a huge breakthrough because it meant that Ricci flow could be used to reliably transform those complex shapes into spheres.
That's incredible. So by understanding these canonical neighborhoods, mathematicians were able to overcome those singularity roadblocks and finally prove the Poincaré conjecture.
That's right. It was a monumental achievement, one that required decades of effort by some of the brightest minds in the world. But the story of the Poincaré conjecture doesn't end there.
Oh, there's more. I have to admit, I'm starting to feel like I'm only scratching the surface of this whole thing.
There's always more to explore. Remember how we talked about the Poincaré conjecture being a statement about the fundamental shape of three-dimensional space? Well, it turns out there's a much broader conjecture called Thurston's geometrization conjecture that takes this idea to a whole new level.
Okay. I'm intrigued. What's this geometrization conjecture all about?
It's a bit more complex, but essentially it proposes that any three-dimensional shape can be broken down into pieces, each of which has one of 8 specific geometries. It's like taking a complex puzzle and figuring out that it's actually made up of a bunch of simpler standard pieces.
So instead of just saying that all those shapes are equivalent to a sphere, this conjecture is saying that they can be built from a specific set of geometric building blocks.
Exactly. And what's amazing is that Perelman's work on the Poincaré conjecture actually provided the key to proving Thurston's geometrization conjecture as well. It turns out that the same techniques he developed for Ricci flow and canonical neighborhoods could be extended to tackle this much broader problem.
Wow, talk about 2 birds with 1 stone. He solved 2 major conjectures with the same set of tools. That's some serious mathematical firepower.
It's truly remarkable, and it highlights the power of these ideas to not only solve specific problems, but also to open up entirely new avenues of mathematical exploration.
This whole conversation has been mind-blowing. We've gone from crumpling paper to performing surgery on mathematical shapes to uncovering the fundamental building blocks of geometry. What's fascinating to me is that even though the Poincaré conjecture is now a proven theorem, it feels like it's just the beginning of a much larger journey of discovery.
You're absolutely right. The Poincaré conjecture has opened up a whole new world of mathematical and philosophical questions. For example, it makes you wonder about the shape of our universe. If it's closed and simply connected, as the conjecture suggests, does that mean it's finite? Does it loop back on itself in some way? And what about the possibility of other universes with different shapes and structures?
Okay, now you're really getting me thinking. It's amazing to see how a seemingly abstract mathematical idea can lead to such profound questions about the nature of reality. But before we get too lost in the cosmic implications, I'm curious to know more about the human side of this story. We've talked a lot about the technical details, but what about the mathematicians themselves? What drove them to spend decades, even lifetimes, wrestling with these complex problems?
That's a great question. And it speaks to the deep-seated human desire to understand the world around us, to uncover the hidden patterns and structures that govern our reality. For mathematicians like Poincaré, Hamilton, and Perelman, the pursuit of mathematical truth was more than just a job. It was a calling, a quest to unlock the secrets of the universe using the language of numbers and shapes.
It's inspiring to think that there are people out there who are so passionate about these ideas, who are willing to dedicate their lives to exploring the frontiers of knowledge.
It's a reminder that even in a world that often seems focused on the practical and the immediate, there's still a place for the pursuit of knowledge for its own sake. The drive to understand, to explore, to push the boundaries of what we know, that's what makes us human.
I couldn't agree more. And speaking of exploring, I think it's time we delved into the philosophical implications of the Poincaré conjecture. We've seen how this mathematical idea has shaped our understanding of the universe, but what about its impact on our understanding of ourselves, our place in the cosmos, and the nature of knowledge itself?
I'm ready to get philosophical. The Poincaré conjecture raises some profound questions about the nature of truth, the power of abstract reasoning, and the limits of human understanding.
Right.
Let's dive in.
All right, so we've talked about this Poincaré conjecture as this mathematical Mount Everest,
Right.
this incredible feat of human ingenuity.
Yeah.
But then we kind of zoomed out and saw it's part of this even grander landscape.
We did.
The geometrization conjecture,
Yeah.
which is like mapping out the entire mountain range.
Right.
It's just mind-boggling.
It is. And the fact that both of these conjectures were proven using Ricci flow, this mathematical smoothing process, just shows how powerful and versatile this tool really is. It's like mathematicians found a key that unlocks all sorts of doors in the world of geometry and topology.
And I think what's even more amazing is that these mathematical tools, these abstract ideas, are actually having real-world impact.
They are.
We're talking about applications in computer graphics, medical imaging, even cosmology. It's like this bridge between the theoretical and the practical.
Exactly.
Between the world of pure thought and the world we experience every day.
That bridge is what makes this whole story so compelling.
It really is.
Yeah.
You start with this question about the fundamental shapes of the universe, and you end up with tools that are shaping the way we see and interact with the world. It's a reminder that even the most abstract ideas can have tangible consequences.
Very true.
But amidst all this talk of shapes and smoothing processes and all this, we can't forget the human element here. We're talking about real people, brilliant minds who dedicated their lives to unraveling these mathematical mysteries.
Absolutely.
And I think the story of Grigori Perelman, the man who ultimately cracked the code of the Poincaré Conjecture, is particularly fascinating.
It is. He's a unique figure in the history of mathematics.
Yeah.
This incredibly gifted mathematician who chose to work in relative isolation.
Right.
And then when he had this breakthrough, he shared it with the world in a series of unassuming online posts.
It was like he just dropped this bombshell and then just stepped back, almost indifferent to the accolades and attention.
That's right.
He's like the J.D. Salinger of mathematics.
Yeah.
Brilliant, reclusive, and seemingly unconcerned with fame or recognition. And even when he was awarded the Fields Medal, the highest honor in mathematics,
or Nobel Prize of Math,
he declined it. What do you make of that?
It's hard to say for sure what motivates someone like Perelman, but I think it speaks to the purity of his passion for mathematics. He wasn't driven by the pursuit of awards or recognition. He was driven by this quest for knowledge, by the challenge of solving a problem that had stumped some of the greatest minds for over a century. And once he had achieved that, it seems like the external rewards held little interest for him.
It's a powerful reminder that the most profound motivations often come from within, from a deep-seated curiosity and a desire to understand the world around us. And in a way, Perelman's story reinforces the beauty and elegance of the Poincaré Conjecture itself. It's a statement about these fundamental truths, about the underlying structure of reality, and it seems fitting that its solution came from someone who was driven by such a pure and unadulterated love for the beauty of mathematics.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the Poincaré Conjecture, what are some of the key takeaways you hope our listeners will remember?
Well, I hope they've gained an appreciation for the power of mathematics to reveal hidden truths about our universe. The Poincaré Conjecture might seem like a very abstract idea, but its implications are so far-reaching, touching on everything from the shape of the cosmos to the development of these cutting-edge technologies.
And I hope they've also been inspired by the stories of these mathematicians who dedicated their lives to solving this puzzle. People like Poincaré Hamilton Perelman. They show us that this pursuit of knowledge is an adventure worth taking. And that even the most challenging problems can be solved with perseverance, creativity, and a little bit of mathematical magic.
Couldn't agree more.
So there you have it, the Poincaré Conjecture, a story of mathematical mystery, intellectual pursuit, and the enduring power of the human mind. We've explored its history, its proof, its implications, and the remarkable individuals who made it all possible. It's been a truly fascinating journey, and I hope you've enjoyed it as much as we have.
I've had a great time.
Until next time, keep those minds curious and never stop exploring the wonders of the world around you.
Happy deep diving, everyone.